Yeah, sending amplificating vibes to wherever you're at in a good way. I don't know what that means, but I hope you're well. Is what it is meant to mean. So, I was just watching this, this Harry Potter flick real quick, and I saw this very interesting depiction of the dementors, which they're just really light-sucking beings. And I thought it was a very clear depiction of just like the metamorphosis of ego. And basically it's this recognition, and then obviously the guy dispels the dementor with light, and it's just this recognition of a certain type of archetype that's out there amongst the human and other sentient being species, meaning, yeah, some humans and then some other arguably humans or not humans. And that's to say, so this is really what I wanted to speak on right now, which is there is only light. That is the only reality. There is only light. Then we get split into duality, and there becomes this oscillation in the light, and so the light needs darkness to be able to exist, and light wants to expand. Light wants to, you want to expand, I want to expand. My lifetime, I want to spend it growing, and I want to spend that growing in love. And so there's a certain type of way my expansion is wanting to take place, and yet inevitably there is oscillation in my expansion. Oscillation meaning back and forthness, to and fro, from my higher to my lower. And that's, to me, that's just a recognition of nature. It's like, and then quantum physics basically confirms that that is how the quantum level of everything is happening as well, that there's vibration, and that vibration acts on frequencies and da-da-da. But specifically here, I'm wanting to touch on, yeah, they're like, they're beings that feed off of light, and they don't produce their own light because they are void of light in their own producing manner. That's not really the best way to say it, but it's like and so what, doesn't like a dementor need a hug? Nah, not really. The dementor is, let's put it this way, not to break down J.K. Rowling like intention in what she wrote as characters called dementors, but in looking at the geometry and the nature of these characters in this film, as I'm noticing that it applies to how I've interfaced with some ghoul-like human creatures, in that, you know, so I try to look beyond the human and look to, well, what is the soul going through, or what is source, what is self going through? You know, self is this human, or this dementor. If we are all one and this is the reality that we know to be true, then what's the deal here? How come yeah, this spiritual predator is preying on my light? That's the idea. That's the idea that, you know, if you're still watching after 4 minutes and 14 seconds, then you're probably like, yeah, I've seen, or I've interfaced with a being like this, or an entity like this, which non-physical entities are probably more of a, not easier subject to talk on, but it goes the same way. You know, these non-physical demonic entities that are spiritually leeching off of others' light and others' love. And it's actually, to me, it's like a pretty complicated situation, because people look at like the situation that Earth is in, and they're like, man, how, you know, what the WTF? And it's like, okay, well, you look at reptilian, and I'm going to gloss over a couple things here, but it's, yeah, I'm glossing over it for a reason to get to what I'm referring to. So it's like you have reptilians that are like this idea that there are beings incarnate in human physical bodies that are basically void of a love center compass system and have been guided through the majority of their life in the reptilian brain stem, meaning it's fight or flight for the most part, and they're perfect conduits to serve the expansion of separation. The expansion of separation is almost like the expansion of separation is basically a synonym for the repression of expansion, or the repression of love, or the suppression of light expansion. However, these are all things that are necessary for this experience to happen, which I like Dr. Robert Lanza's lens of biocentrism, that it's actually all backwards, really. I'm looking at my screen in my hand, holding this phone from the inside out. And then I'm seeing this grass, and I'm seeing across the street and this house, and I'm seeing my whole reality inside out, not outside in. And yet we're interfacing with all other reference points outside in. You're interfacing with me through whatever screen you're on, outside in. I'm coming to you now, outside in. And yet the true reality is that it's still inside out. I'm just appearing here through the Apple product, or I don't. You may be Android, but so yeah, outside in versus inside out expansion. I said reptilians, archons. It's the idea that there has to be leeches and succubus-like creatures, because there are phoenixes, because there are hummingbirds, because there are flowers, there are bees, because there are light bulbs, there are shadow pockets, because there are cataclysms, there are miracles, because there are volcanoes, there are... I'm not really sure what the opposite of a volcano is, but I think you kind of catch my drift. It's correspondence, and it's the law of equilibrium. That's just, there's always balance happening, but understanding the geometry of it, I think it's part of understanding nature. It's part of understanding, when walking through the forest, which mushrooms are good to eat and which mushrooms are not good to eat, which berries are poisonous, which snakes are more dangerous, or etc., etc., which flowers are, etc., etc. Just learning more about the natural environment that we currently find ourselves in, and we have to protect this one. We have been given this one. We have been given one to protect and to live in and call home. And so, in recognizing that there is spiritual warfare going on, you call it spiritual warfare, and I immediately go towards like a Dan Brown ethos of like angels and demons, and like this Roman Catholic Christian reality distortion field of like, yeah, angelic realm and demonic realm, and I'm a soul that, or rather, in their lensing, it's I'm a human who has a soul which can be taken from me, or I can give to something. So I think that lens is kind of archaic and not really serving our highest expansion from this point, but it is still context in which we interface with this idea of angels and demons, or of, yeah, this Harry Potter reference, which is dementors, which is what I'm referencing now, is just the dynamic that, yeah, there are beings that are designed to suck off of your energy. It's like the idea of candida. What the fuck is candida? Candida is a parasite that is feeding off of, I'm not a candida expert, but from what I understand, it's feeding off of like sugar and wheat and whatever else makes it thrive. But it's this idea that, yeah, your unconsciousness allows it to eat or feed off of you, and you become an energy source for it, and it doesn't serve your highest expansion, but maybe your field is welcoming or allowing such a thing because you don't have coherence on that micro-tuned level. And so Yes, like if you're eating pure alkaline, then yeah, candida is like not even a thing. However, if you're unconscious about what alkaline even means, then yeah, candida can be a thing. If you're unconscious to the next level, then you don't even know what candida is. Saying all of that literally in the past 10 minutes as a reference to say, if you're in conversation with some people and you may be related to them and they activate you and instigate your shadow side to give more energy to that which is furthest from your source, from the present moment, and that means just a negative reaction, a negative emotional reaction, a harsh, anything on the lower end of the spectrum, which, you know, anger is a higher frequency than sadness, but it's still not blissful joy, and so it takes you out of that bliss body. Or not to assume that you just live in your bliss body, but it's contributing to this war on consciousness. I don't even want to say that, but I did say that. We'll say war on equilibrium, or we'll say war is such a dense word. We'll say I think this is really how I'm interfacing with all of it, and through this moon lens is this is the journey beyond duality. War on consciousness, equal sign, evolution past duality, evolution beyond duality, expansion beyond duality. That we are capable of becoming single pointed when we activate these glands and these energy centers, and we can speak our truth and see our truth that is beyond us up into these realms and dimensions that aren't. And that's what always gets me, is like, well, I'm still in the human. I'm still interfacing with everything through these two eyeballs. This is my human experience. I'm like, yeah, that is the human thing that we got to keep coming back to. And so all that to say, as these dementors were just a reference and a reminder to me, yeah, keep an eye out there for folks who aren't giving you any energy, who are actually just feeding off of you energetically. Keep an eye out for things that are feeding off of you energetically. Keep an eye out for addictions and patterns and belief systems that are installed in you currently that are feeding off of your energy. Light, energy, just words and symbols, but ultimately, yeah, is it feeding your expansion or feeding your destruction? Mind food for your day, sending you light and vibes of the highest quality. Much love. Namaste.